welcome to my review on the Rite chest-mounted Optima rebreather, dived in Olwolgin Cave, which is situated approximately 1,200 kilometres east of Perth, out on the Roe Plains. After clocking up 70 hours on my ChOptima, I finally got to take it into the cave, and what a place to do it. So over the 20-ish hours that I did in Olwolgin Cave, I'm now doing a review on the ChOptima and the features and benefits and some of the tweaks that I've done to my unit that suits me. A few quick pictures of the campsite, and out here the only communications we have with the world is via sat phone. A pic coming up in a moment, you're going to see my cylinder, and as it's now placed on my butt, there's a little bit of scratches to it. And here I am, yours truly, on my Optima chest mount rebreather. So starting off, we've got the entrance pond. Now, I was the first diver in, but at the entrance pond, the act of kitting up will cause silt to fall down in through the passage. And as soon as we get in, we're hit with the first restriction, which is a letterbox style opening I'm about to go through. And on the chest mount rebreather, it is very, very easy to pop in through here. I'm diving in a dry suit. I've got twin 7-litre side mount cylinders. There we go. So this is the first time I've ever been into a cave on my new rebreather, the ChOptima, and very, very happy with how it negotiated that particular restriction. This entire system is a low flattener, or a bedding plane if you like. A couple of things while I'm looking at it there. I am going to change my 90-degree swivel on my second stage to a different angle, just so that the second stage sits a little bit nicer. Two minor changes that I've done to my unit specific for caving is I have my 2-litre O2 on my butt, and I've also got 2 dog clips on a bungee instead of the cinch straps to attach the ChOptima to my harness. In this system, it's low flattener restriction, low flattener restriction, so you're constantly taking off the bottom 2 clips of the unit, supermanning through a restriction, putting it back on, and reattaching your scooter harness onto your D-ring, so it's just a little bit easier to do that. So now we're getting to the nuts and bolts as to why I really like diving my ChOptima rebreather. So the first restriction through here, I've been through here several times on open circuit 12s, as well as with an S80 on one side and a side mount rebreather on the other. I can't get through there without de-kitting a cylinder or my side mount breather, and on a side mount breather, trying to get through that particular restriction, the work of breathing can be really hard work. However, supermanning it through on the ChOptima is easy with a set of 7s, and the work of breathing while going through the restriction is actually really, really nice. Another consideration, I'm 6'1" or 185 centimeters, I'm 98 kilos, so for my size, it works for me to just superman through on a set of 7s compared to, as I said, a side mount rebreather or twin 12-litre cylinders. Again, a very personal choice here. The particular spot I'm in at the moment is like a double restriction. So I actually had the scooter on one side of the first restriction, videoing myself coming through the restriction. I'm now pushing the scooter through the second restriction, and these 2 restrictions are approximately 2 meters apart. And I've spun the camera around, and I'm quickly putting the unit back on, and away we go. I do like how quick it is to just unclip the unit from your waistband and clip it back on. And again, when it's under the chin, the work of breathing is surprisingly excellent. I also like the fact that not having the cylinder underneath the ChOptima reduces the overall height by about 25%, so it's a little bit easier to push through, and again, easier to get to that D-ring. So now we've seen what it's like for me to get through. Again, 6'1", 98 kilos, chest mount rebreather, and twin 7-litres. And now I'm videoing my buddy who's coming through. This particular person is about 80 kilos, I'd say, at about 5'10", on a side mount rebreather. So the width is probably about the same as me because I am a larger person. So for my size, it's definitely easier getting through that particular restriction on a chest mounted breather that I can Superman through with a set of 7s compared to a set of 12s or a side mount breather with an 80 cubic foot on my side. Again, horses for courses. Some great little footage here of videoing through the low flatteners. There's just enough room to be scootering through with a fair amount of care required not to do any damage to the cave. In this particular area, there's also a fair bit of finger walking required, pushing the scooter out ahead of me. So at Olwolgin, I always allocate a brand new set of gloves. I don't chop the fingers off because at the end of the trip, the fingers are gone regardless. Using the scooter as a reference, you can guesstimate my depth. So if the scooter can actually go through a low flattener top to bottom without turning it on its side, so therefore from the handle to the bottom of the shroud, means that I can also get through relatively easily with myself in a dry suit and the breather underneath me. And again, in the low flatteners, one of the reasons why I put the cylinder on my butt, when I have to clip the scooter D-ring back on, I don't have the luxury of room to then reach all the way down underneath the cylinder. So it just makes it a little bit easier in that particular circumstance. So now yet another restriction. Through we go, push the scooter through, finger walk. And again, this is not the sort of thing that you want to be doing until you've done your 50 hours on the unit, you're properly cave trained, and you have all the certifications required to do this type of diving. Just a couple of things about myself. So I started cave training back in 2011, around the same time I started Rebreather training as well. So I've got close to 1,000 hours on a variety of units, the ChOptima being the latest unit, and I started diving that in the end of March this year, 2021, and I've clocked up close to 100 hours since then, and of which the last 30 have been in caves. So my buddy is ahead of me. He needs to take off the additional safety cylinder to get through. Now that's irrespective of being on a side mount or a chest mount breather. That extra cylinder just wasn't going to get through. So he's popped through, and quick turnaround of the camera, undo the ChOptima, push the scooter ahead of me, and through I go. Now, if you can see that little dog clip there, what I've done is the 2 dog clips that I was using to attach to either side of my harness, I've actually clipped them together, and I've put in another dog clip centrally. So I'm only using one dog clip, and I'm attaching it to my D-ring on my crotch strap, as with my scooter as well. So it's even quicker to don and doff the bottom of the ChOptima to get through the restrictions. Now, a quick caveat to that, works really well in my dry suit, but the next video I'll be posting, which is on Panic and Plains, I was in a wetty and it wasn't anywhere near as efficient, and I went back to having the 2, one on either side of me on my harness. So I am finding using the ChOptima really efficient to get through those restrictions. And again, you can see the unit underneath my chin, and the work of breathing is really nice while going through the restrictions. So on prior trips to this same cave, going through these same areas, when I'd be going through on side mount rebreathers, I would actually flick over to open circuit whilst going through a restriction, and then flick back over to closed circuit, just to make the work of breathing that little bit easier. So there's my buddy dropping off another safety cylinder. We've got them staged throughout the cave, and off we go again. A quick caveat I've got to state, there's nothing wrong with the side mount rebreather. I own one, I own a side mount rebreather, I own a back mount rebreather. For me, going through restrictions, I find the ChOptima a much nicer breather to breathe through the restriction in any position, head up, head down, or whatever, compared to my side mount breather. Oh, just a bit of quick info. So we're at 2.7 meters depth. To turn around to get out is approximately 3 kilometers. So it's a really great system that we're diving in at the moment. And away goes my buddy, and it's time to head out. We noticed some bubbling on his dill out cylinder there, so it was time to call the dive. one of the advantages I do like on the ChOptima setup, diving it chest mounted with inside mount configuration, is the fact that you've got 2 dill-out cylinders. So you can have, in this instance, a rich diluent. Maximum depth in this cave is only 12-ish meters. So I was running a 50 mix in my dill. The average depth in this cave, by the way, is only about 8 meters. And on my right, I was running air. So in my right cylinder, I was using it for dry suit inflation. And I really wasn't using my wing at all, conserving as much off-board as I could in my 50 mix. Well, you can probably tell by now that I'm fairly stoked with my ChOptima rebreather. That, coupled with a couple of 7s and the versatility of the setup, I couldn't be happier. I'm teaching my first ChOptima course in a couple of weeks, and I'm really looking forward to it. So if you're after any more information on the Rite ChOptima rebreather, please feel free to email me, message me. I'd be more than happy to chat.
That was fucking awesome.